Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Breakdown Podcast YouTube channel. My name's Corey, and in this video, we are going to be talking the latest episode. What is this? What do they call this, Vic?
The Bad Batch.
No. The episode before the finale.
Oh, the penultimate episode.
The penultimate episode of Star Wars, The Bad Batch. But before we get to that, we do want to let you know we do our show live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/MillerKing_51. The link is in the description down below. Come and join us and join the chat as well too. And we interact during the show as well. This week we are going to be reviewing the latest James Gunn film, Suicide Squad. So come over, check us out, and let us know what you thought of it. And while you're down there checking out that link, please hit the subscribe button and give us a thumbs up as well. Hit the bell for the notifications. All of that does help our channel out, and we'd really like to get the name out there. So with that, Vic, let's break it down.
This episode of The Bad Batch had the group returning to Kamino, which is actually the title of this episode.
Yes, it is.
The Batch are heading back to Kamino because they picked up a signal from Hunter's comm, letting them know that he was taken from Doro and moved to Tapoca City on Kamino. So it's kind of come full circle. We started out there in episode 1. We've returned there for the penultimate episode. And I feel like we're going to probably end up there at the end for the season finale. But Hunter is there. Crosshair is like, so I'm going to use your communicator to get everybody else to come. And he's like, they're not going to do it. He's like, oh, no, they'll come because I know them just like I know you. So he activates the comm link. And of course, the rest of the batch, knowing it's a trap, knowing what's going to happen,
it's a trap,
they go anyway because they can't leave their brother behind. And that kind of becomes the theme of the episode.
Right.
Because as they get towards the planet, Omega's like, hey, let me show you how this is done. You need to fly lower. And they're like, we're going to crash. He's like, just do it. Go down, fly lower. They're like, why? And he's like, because there's a hidden platform that only activates when the ship gets close enough to the water to crash. And sure enough, popping out of the water is a platform. And on the platform is a pretty cool bubble that I think they stole from, I think it was Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Oh, yeah.
I just kept thinking Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Well, it's either that or the Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yep.
The little pods.
Yes.
I was just thinking, what if a ship was just flying around? You know, they didn't really know where they were going. They were kind of lost. And they were close to the water and got near that little platform thing, and they just run right into it and explode. And they're like, well, they don't even have a chance to react to say what the hell.
If they're flying that low and they're in trouble, they probably weren't going to make it anyway.
I'm not making excuses for them. I'm just saying they're doing it.
Yeah. So they take the little pod into the city using this hidden, I guess, railway that they have in their tube system. And it takes them to Nala Se's secret laboratory. And we find out that is the exact laboratory where the Bad Batch was created. They were tested upon, and also where Omega was hatched. Because technically they were all hatched.
But they weren't really in eggs, though.
Well, they came from eggs, and then they were kept inside of a shell, and then they were released from the shell, so they were hatched. Like there's
just
no
a weird thing to
around
think
it.
about. Yeah, let's pretend they weren't hatched.
So, with that, she starts explaining this. He's like, "Oh, this is the laboratory where you guys were born. It's also the laboratory where I was created as well." And the way that she was talking, I think she's the same age as them. Because she talks about how she was there when they were created. And if that's the case,
going to one up you.
What's that?
I think she was there before they were there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I don't think she's. I think she's older than them.
I don't think she's older. I think that she just has she obviously wasn't augmented. They did the same thing they did with Boba. They didn't give her any of the growth hormones. So it is very possible that she is very barely older than them, but she has not been she hasn't been accelerated. So she's aging normally, whereas they're aging at double their time. So, you know, if she's like 13 years old, and technically the batch is probably around 26, 27. They
look older than that.
Well, I mean, war will do it to you. But in accelerated years, you know what I mean? And they're constantly getting older. Like, they're aging every minute, like, faster than they should be. So, I mean, you figure if every hour is 2 for them, then they're going to look a little bit more ragged than the rest of them.
The last episode is going to have them sitting in rocking chairs with big beards because they're all old, because they're aging so fast.
Than that. But it was interesting to hear her kind of give a little bit of background onto you know, how they were created, where they were created, and while they're down there, they run into AZ3, who is the little nurse droid. I don't know.
I forgot about this droid until this episode.
I don't know else how to explain to him, but he's been in several episodes. He's been in these 2 episodes on Bad Batch.
He was in the first one.
He was also on in Clone Wars when we first see a couple of the clones, including Rex. Not Rex. Who was it?
I don't know.
I think it was Fives. One of the clones had his chip removed, and AZ was there, so that was kind of cool to see him come back. And he's like, she's like, what are you doing here? He's like, I'm hiding. They're killing everyone. They're destroying droids. They're killing off clones that don't want to, you know, follow their instructions. They're shipping all the clones off Kamino, and they're basically shutting down Tipoca City. And he's like, I'm just hiding. Like, I don't want to die.
Yeah.
Which is a whole nother situation because droids are not supposed to have that self-preservation. Like, that's not something droids are supposed to do. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
C-3PO did.
Not to the point where he would like literally, like, he was hiding, but he was hiding because he needed not to get caught, because they needed to get the what? Which way?
In the beginning of episode 4, he and R2 are, like, since the ship's being attacked, they're running in between different rooms like an episode of Scooby-Doo. and that's when Leia gets a hold of them and pulls them into that room to send the message.
Well,
they were running away.
I don't think they were running away as much as it was R2 was heading for Princess Leia. That's what I think was going, and C-3PO was going with him, because if you remember, C-3PO was bitching about, why are you going this way? What are you doing? And he's just beeping and warbling at him and kept going until he went to Princess Leia. So I don't know. We can agree to disagree. I don't know.
Yeah.
But either way, they're like, okay, well, we have to go get Hunter, and she's like, follow me. I know how we can get to him. Tech figures out that he's on the training field, which is where we saw the Admiral Tarkin kind of try to see what kind of skills they actually had.
Right.
And they managed to beat the crap out of all those robots, and he was just like, oh crap, they're actually good, I need to get rid of them. Because he knew right from the start, like, these clones are too well trained, they're too good at what they do, and they're unpredictable, and I can't deal with unpredictable. That's why Tarkin wanted them dead. That's why when he was able to kind of pull Crosshair over, he was thinking, okay, the best way for me to get rid of them is to use one of them to do it. And that's what we've been dealing with throughout the whole thing. The boys are like, okay, we're going to take this lift up. We're going to surprise them. They'll never see us coming. I'm like, that lift is like 1.5 miles wide. I'm pretty sure they're going to see the floor open. They're going to know you're coming. Like, this is not a surprise. It's not like it's a tube. Like, they're just going to, like, flying out of it, and all of a sudden they're there. Like, it's going to slowly rise up, and they're all just going to be standing there with guns. And sure enough, they're all standing there with guns.
Yeah, and here's the thing, too. They said that, why don't we go through... somebody made mention about going through a different door, and they're like, no, he'll be expecting that. My thought was, no, he knows you all. Yeah. He's going to know that you're thinking that he's expecting him to think It's a
He
whole mind
knows
thing.
that you know that I know
He
that
knows,
you know that he knows
yeah.
that I know you're gonna come through the floor. Like,
Yeah. Essentially, he knows you're coming through the floor.
like he's one of you. He knows what you're thinking as much as you do.
Mhm.
So they get there. They get basically surrounded and almost captured for the most part. And Hunter and Crosshair have a heart to heart. And I was like, man, this is actually getting kind of heavy. Like it's like estranged brothers meeting up again, kind of hashing it out. And Crosshair's like, he's like, well, why? He's like, you need to join me. We need to, to get the band back together because we're much better as a group than we are, fighting each other. And Hunter's like, yeah, exactly. That's why you need to come with us. And he's like, no, you need to join the Empire because it's just weird. Like, it's a weird conversation. And Hunter's like, no. And he's like, well, you left me. You chose Omega over me. And I'm like, mother effer, you left them. Like, you chose to go against them in the Empire. You were shooting at them.
Right.
Like, you started the fight, and then you're going to be like, oh, you chose her over me? No, they told you to come with them in the first place. And you're like, no, a good soldier follows orders. Like, this was on you, dude. You can't put this back on them. You did this, Crosshair.
Yeah, I can kind of feel a little bit for Crosshair in the sense that, he feels like, what else are we going to do?
Yeah.
And so, but it's like he hasn't thought of like, you guys could be bounty hunters. You guys could,
like he's like his whole thing. He's like, we can be great. We are we are the elite. We can be the elite. But like, dude, you've seen them systematically killing your brothers, all of the regs. You've seen them like shipping them off to God knows where. They replaced all of your like they could have given you a clone troop, but no, they gave you a bunch of these new TKs. Okay, and they don't trust you. They don't believe in you. Like, what part? How many times do you have to be prove? How many times do they have to prove this to you? Like, he tried to kill you once. They were ready to sacrifice you, without abandon when they set off the engine, the thruster engine. Like, obviously they're not the Empire does not have your best interest in heart.
Right.
and on top of that, the Republic, when it came down to it, which is just the Empire, the only reason why they made the clones was so that they had an expendable army. They didn't have to worry about like killing off people, quote unquote, and causing strife amongst the different races in the galaxy. So they just cloned a bunch of one guy and sent them in to fight, even though like the whole thing was a bad idea in the first place. So like, we're gonna throw you in front of all these robots blaster fire, and whichever one of you survive, no big deal, because you're just gonna turn old and die early anyway. But when they get up in the elevator and they get challenged by Crosshair, they had told Omega, like, if we get in trouble or we get caught, you take the tube back to the ship and get the hell off planet. And as soon as they get up there, they're like, oh crap, you gotta go.
Yeah.
And she, of course, does what she always does, which is not listen. Because Omega is a hard-headed kid that just does not like taking no for an answer. And she's like, I'm going to help them. I'm going to reprogram all of these robots to go fight them and help them. But I'm like, dude, those robots are designed to fight anybody but the robots. So if you send it up there, they're not going to help them. They're going to attack them. And sure enough, she opens up a can of whoop-ass on the entire group. Meanwhile, one trooper tries to stop her and they end up beating her up. I don't remember if it was a chick or not. But when it comes down to it, the robots attack. Crosshair is like, I need you to trust me. And he's like, how can I trust you? And Crosshair single shots, like one shot, 5 kills, all of his troopers.
No, did you see how he did it?
Yeah, he bounced it off of them.
No, there was something in the floor. And I think it was Goggles that says something, or kind of bumps, what's his name? The dude that's half robot.
Oh, Echo, yeah.
Yeah. And he kind of looks over, and they look over, and there's something shiny on the floor.
Yeah.
I think it may have been a mirror. But I mean, it's never really said.
Yeah.
But once, and so I knew something was coming up with that. And so when he shot it, I was like, oh, he's using the ricochet off the mirror. Because there must have been mirrors set on the floor. And that was his plan the whole time, was to have those guys lined up that way. He knew.
Now, I don't quite think so. I could see that for sure, that you would think that was the move he was going for. But I think that because Crosshair tactically is always looking at tactical advantages when it comes to shooting things, he's a sniper. So that would have been one thing that he did notice right away when he's like, because he still hadn't made up his mind. In my opinion, he had not made up his mind whether or not he was just going to kill them and walk away or try to convince them to go with him. And depending on how that whole thing went down, he was going to make up his mind on what he was going to do, because he knows that if he betrays the Empire, they're just going to cut him loose. So like, that wasn't a decision that he was like pre-planning. I think he was just in the moment. He saw that, he's just like, blam, he hits all 5 of them with one shot and they're free. The problem is the freaking droids show up, and now they've gotten rid of the stormtroopers, but now they got to get rid of all these droids, and there were a lot of droids.
So I like this scene. I like this scene because you get to see them all doing basically what their specialties are. Yeah. And seeing Crosshair in there too, even though he's been, basically a bad guy the entire season.
He falls right back into the group.
Not only that, it was actually kind of nice to see him with the group again.
Yeah.
Even though we didn't really get a lot of that in the beginning.
Yeah.
You guys, from the other show, it's possible you got more than that.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I really hadn't gotten a whole lot. But to see it again, it was kind of a nice change of pace, especially.
He was sharpshooting his butt off, and they were taking advantage of every opportunity to just take down as many as possible. And even Omega got in there with her little bow and arrow, and she was taking a couple of them out. So her aim has gotten better, and they annihilate the entire group, take out the whole crew of robots, and they basically get free. The problem is one more of the stormtroopers that was left behind is like, Admiral, we lost control of Crosshair. And he's like, leave him. And I was like, well, there we go. This is how it's all going to go down. Like, he's like, this is like, the Empire is the best thing in the world. But like I said, the whole time, they're going to drop him like a hot rock as soon as they don't need him anymore. They needed him to capture the Bad Batch. Now they have them trapped on the planet in that city, and they're just going to glass the damn planet. And once they do that, which it's kind of hard to imagine them being able to do with it being a water planet, but once they blast that city, then they're like, okay, they're out of our hair. We don't have to worry about them anymore, and they're done. So like, all of the stuff that he's done, it was for naught when it really comes down to it.
And I think that's what's going to end up in the last episode. He's going to end up being like, all right.
Well, they get off planet. Well, he hops on his Lambda class shuttle and takes off for the Venator class ships that are flying up there. And he's like, okay, Tarkin's like, prepare to fire. I was like, oh, it's so good. Like, everything with Tarkin it's literally like an Easter egg. Everything Tarkin does is almost an Easter egg, because it's literally like seeing him from The New Hope and all the other, and like seeing him like how he was, and like the actor that's portraying him does such a good job at like mimicking his tone and the way that Tarkin was. I love like how well he's doing that. But he tells him to blast the planet, and the 4 Venator ships that are flying in orbit just start blowing up the whole city. They try to get out, but they can't. They end up going back in to the city. I'm like, why didn't you guys just go down to the lab and get the hell out of there in the first place? Get in the bubble, get in the ball, and take it back to the platform, which is nowhere near the city. It's on the outskirts of the city. Like, they could have survived that. And even if they had blown up the tube, they're inside of a sphere that's probably waterproof, and they just would have popped up to the surface and been okay. But either way, where we left it was the city was being sunk, and they were still in the building. And that's how the episode pretty much ends, with all of the bats together, trying to survive the destruction of the city. At
first, I thought Hunter actually did kill what's his name? Crosshair. But then I realized, I was like, wait a minute, their guns have been on stun this entire season.
Yeah,
so I doubt
him.
that they changed
I
it.
told you how you could tell, and he used the blue circle.
It was blue. You're right. I noticed. I especially noticed it that time.
And on top of like, he took his backpack and his rifle with him, because that's his, like, that's Crosshair. Like, those two things are his thing. The one thing that was really super, like, I said this is ridiculous to say, but was really kind of emotional, is when they did the scene where they start going through the city and showing all of the, like, they showed the Bad Batch's room, and then they showed like the common area, the eating, or the cafeteria. Then
it was all empty.
They showed the birthing bays, which I'm like, holy cow, there were a lot of kids in those things. There were a lot of little people in those the little ones. Like, they were still in full production up until when they probably killed Lama Se, or Nala Se. But I was just like that was almost emotional. Like, I was expecting, like, it was just really well done. Like, it was a very good, like, montage of scenes of, like, in the first episode, we saw all of those places, and we saw how full it was and how full of life it was, and how everybody was kind of enjoying their existence, training and learning and all the stuff that they were doing there. And then in this episode, you just see it completely empty and hollow and about to be destroyed. And then it does get destroyed. And you're like, damn, that's the end of the cloners there, at least.
Yeah. I have a feeling they're going to end up underwater, and they're going to get back to their ship. They're going to get off, and they're going to...
So I was thinking about it, and I think that what's going to end up happening is, we didn't actually see them kill the Prime Minister. We saw them close the door. We knew they had the orders to kill him. But I feel like there's a possibility that maybe when those doors close, because he's the Prime Minister, he has his own security system in there, and probably took out those two troopers and got away. And I'm almost positive. If it doesn't happen, I would be surprised. But I feel like he's gonna pop up there somewhere and, like, get them off the planet and be like, I miss, what is it? What's the word I'm looking for? I underestimated your guys' ability, and I shouldn't have. But if you get me off this planet, I'll help you get where you want to go or whatever. So I feel like that's going to happen, because there's still, unless they destroy the entire planet, there's still other cities on that world. So I can't see him not being able to get away or have some sort of, like, an escape shuttle or something that they can get away with underwater, like you said. So I feel like that's going to happen, and then from there, like, the big question mark is what is Crosshair going to do? We know what the others are doing. They want to survive.
He's going to join them. He's going to join them for sure. He's going to see that the Empire actually did leave him to die, and they didn't care about him like he thought. And and it's exactly what Hunter was telling him originally. He's like, you come back. We'll get this figured out. That's what's going to happen.
I think there's definitely a vibe of you didn't leave me this time. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you stunned me. I hate you for that too. But you didn't leave me behind. They got him out of there. They got him to safety. But I don't think he's going to stay with them. I think he's going to leave them. He's going to be like, okay, I'm okay with you at this point now because you saved my life, and I understand kind of, but you're not doing what I want. I want to be the top gun. And he's going to go out, and I think that's where you're talking about, like, him becoming a bounty hunter or something. I think that's possible for him to do at this point, but I think he's still going to, like, have a little too much, like, angst against them to want to be with them per se. But I think he's going to, like, take off and go do his own thing. But I think it's somewhere in there. I'm still banking on, and obviously in this one episode, I don't think it's going to happen because we have a season 2 coming. And I think that in this next episode, we're going to see him kind of throw his life down for Echo, if not for Echo, for Omega. I still see it coming.
What if Crosshair ends up becoming a bounty hunter that wears a mask, and it's a mask that we know, and now we're finding out it's their backstory?
I can't think of any bounty hunters per se off the top of my head that I can think of, like, in the actual, like, in the lore of Star Wars that he would fit too well. But I think that what's going to happen is when it all comes down to it, by the end of this, we're going to see Fennec Shand again. I think she may be the one that shows up and saves them, maybe. And there's just so many people that could show up at this point. They've met so many people. They have a lot of people that could show up to try to help them. But when it's all said and done, there's going to be some final battle going on in this episode, and I still think that Crosshair is going to be against them. Even though he told him, like, I got rid of my inhibitor chip a long time ago.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that he did that and he's still being the jackass that he is, that says a lot to the fact that I don't think he's just gonna like be like, oh my god, my brothers, I love you, and let's get back together.
No, we'll see. All right, we will see next week, and I guess that's gonna be it for this episode, this video. We do thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you next time.
And may the force be with you. See ya. Oh yeah.
That's the thumbnail, right?